Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. Today, you are joining with the Monday Sutta discussion, and today is day 74. It's been 74 days today that we've been conducting this Sutta discussion series on Mondays, starting from 2019 as early as February. So, in today's talk, I will be discussing a very interesting topic. What are the nutriments? Nutriment means āhāra. What are the nutriments to 5 hindrances, pancha nivarana, and 7 awakening factors, satta bojjhanga? Now, one may wonder why pancha nivarana, which we call 5 hindrances, and satta bojjhangas, 7 awakening factors, have been taken together. In other words, juxtaposed to talk about the nutriments. I will tell you the reason. Pancha nivarana and satta bojjhangas are interconnected more than any other Dhamma factor. So I will tell you why. Now, so far, you might perhaps know satta bojjhangas in a different context as a part of, enlightening awakening factors, and pancha nivarana as a part of samatha bhavana. But I will tell you today why pancha nivaranas are very important in regard to satta bojjhangas, 7 awakening factors. Why 7 awakening factors are very important in regard to pancha nivaranas, which are called 5 hindrances. To talk about this topic, we'll be choosing a sutta called Kaya Sutta. Now, in other places, we know there has been a different name in some Sinhala books, which we identify by āhāra Titika. But Kaya Sutta is the main name of the sutta that we know in the in many texts. So, before I move on to the sutta, I would like to, explain to you the most interesting things about pancha nivarana, which you call 5 hindrances, and satta bojjhangas, which you call by 7 awakening factors. Now, according to one of the suttas in Samyutta Nikaya, now, today's sutta also appears in Bojjhanga Samyutta, a Samyutta that comes in the last sections of Samyutta Nikaya. This sutta, which I am going to be using to talk about the connection between Pancha Nivarana and Satta Bojjhanga, also appears in the Samyutta Nikaya 46 and 46.53. In this sutta, it says, the 7 awakening factors, satta bojjhangas, in the satta bojjhangas, sati is the most interesting factor, especially when talking about as a balancing factor. So, sati is the balancing factor of the rest of the awakening factors. Let's take a look at this statement. When the mind is sluggish, one should develop Dhamma vichaya, viriya, piti. These awakening factors, which means that except, let's leave out sati and then take second, third, fourth, which means Dhamma vichaya, viriya, piti. So when your mind is very lazy, I would say sluggish or slack with over laxness of energy, then you need to practice Dhamma vichaya, viriya, piti. In other words, I would say when you have tina middha, sloth and torpor, then you need to practice Dhamma vichaya, viriya, piti. But when your mind is very excited, very energetic, you should develop Passaddhi, Samadhi, and Upekkha. Right? So those are the next, I would say, the last three awakening factors. Now, which means if your mind is very lazy, you're going to practice second, third, fourth Bojjhanga factors, which you call Dhamma Vichaya, Virya, and Piti. But if your mind is too energetic, which is not lazy, it's too energetic, you have to practice Passaddhi, Samadhi, Upekkha. Dhamma Vichaya means investigating of Dhamma factors. Virya is effort. Piti is rapture, or joy. Passaddhi is composure. Samadhi is concentration. Upekkha is equanimity. Now, the thing is, it says that when your mind is sluggish, what may have caused your sluggishness is Tina and Middha. So Tina and Middha is what cause you to be sluggish. And what may have caused you to be too energetic is Uddhacca Kukucca, which means restlessness and worry or remorse. Okay? So now you can understand Tina Middha, you will face Tina Middha when your mind is too slack, I would say sluggish. That's when you have to practice Dhamma Vichaya, Virya, Piti, these awakening factors. When your mind is over energetic, which means you have Uddhacca Kukucca, restlessness and worry or remorse, at that point you have to practice Passaddhi, Samadhi, and Upekkha, those three awakening factors. But what balances your all the factors, like the rest of the six, I would say Dhamma Vichaya, Virya, Piti, Passaddhi, Samadhi, Upekkha is Sati. So the first awakening factor is what balances out your other rest of the factors. Now, in short, what you have to understand is the connection between Pancha-nivaranas and seven awakening factors. Now, two of the main nivaranas, which are called Tina Middha and Uddhacca Kukucca, play a vital role in bringing people to slackness, I would say sluggishness, and over energeticness. So those two are being driven by Tina Middha and Uddhacca Kukucca. If I am to repeat what I said, Dhamma Vichaya, Virya, Piti, awakening factors must be used when experiencing sloth and torpor, Tina Middha, to regain mindfulness. So mindfulness is what is expected by practicing the other awakening factors. Passaddhi, Samadhi, Upekkha must be practiced when experiencing restlessness and worry, I would say Uddhacca Kukucca, to regain mindfulness. So mindfulness is what we expect by practicing seven awakening factors. I would say six awakening factors, because mindfulness is the first awakening factor. Now I think you sort of have a sense of what is the connection between Pancha-nivarana and seven awakening factors. So let's get into the sutta for today. Okay. I want to encourage you to click on the link under the post, because today I'm not sharing slides because it takes time for me at some point. So please click on the link which has the same the English translation and the Pali text. If you want to look it up, during I'm looking at the transcript. Okay, Kaya Sutta. So the topic for today, as I told you at the beginning, is what are the nutriments, āhāra, to 5 hindrances, Pancha-nivarana, and 7 awakening factors, which are called Satta Bojjhangas. Now you know the connection between these two, but we're going to be looking at nutriments that are really focused on, that are really aimed at both Panchanivarana and Sattabhojjhanga. So we had to look at what nutriments, what āhāra or nutriments help Panchanivaranas to arise, to develop. At the same time, what āhāra nutriments help Sattabhojjhangas to arise, at the same time to develop. Kaya Sutta, Sayyatapi Bhikkhave Savatya, Sayyatapi Bhikkhave Ayam Kayo āhārattitiko, āhārang paticca tittati, anāhāro no tittati, evameva ko bhikkhave Panchanivarana, āhārattitika, āhārang paticca tittanti, anāhāra no tittanti. Savatyam means the sutta was, taught, explained while the Buddha was at, Savatthi, which is the, to my understanding, capital city of Kosala state Kosala. And what it means is at Savatthi, because just as this body sustained by nutriment, so our body is mainly sustained by nutriment, subsists in dependence on nutriment, and does not subsist without nutriment, so too the five hindrances, sustained by nutriment, subsist in dependence on nutriment, and do not subsist without nutriment. So that means just as how our bodies are subsisted on nutriments, in the same way five hindrances are also subsisted on nutriments. So they might not be the food that we talk about. I mean, in the Buddhist teachings, we know there are a couple food, Kabalinkara āhāra, which means the eatables, and maybe not drinkables, I think eatables. Kabalinkara āhāra, Passāhāra means contact-based nutriments, so we need contact, Chakku Sampassa, Sota Sampassa, Ghana Sampassa, Jivha Sampassa, Kaya Sampassa, Mano Sampassa. So we need the contact type of food, which means nutriments for our sense faculties. We also need Vijnana āhāra, and we may also need Mano Sanchetana āhāra. So in that context, we understand nutriments do not always come in a form of eating and drinking that we see materially, but it could also come in a mental perspective. So that is what we talk here, especially with regard to five hindrances at first, but in the latter part of the sutta, it also talks about the nutriments of food for Satta, Bojjhanga, 7 awakening factors. Kocha bhikkhave āhāro anuppannasava kāmachandassa uppadāya, uppannasava kāmachandassa bhiyobhāvāya, vepullāya, atti bhikkhave subanimittāṃ tatta ayoniso manasikāra bahulīkāro ayamāhāro anuppannasava kāmachandassa uppadāya, uppannasava kāmachandassa bhiyobhāvāya, vepullāya. And what bhikkhus, monks, is a nutriment for the arising of unarisen sensual desire, which means kamachanda, and for the increase of and expansion of arisen sensual desire. So it primarily talks about what kind of food which causes unarisen sensual desire to appear, arise, as well as what kind of food or nutriment which helps the already arisen kamachanda to develop, right? So the two aspects of kamachanda. This one kamachanda is not arisen. The second kamachanda is already arisen, but what kind of food, nutriment which develops that arisen kamachanda. So two perspective of kamachanda. There is, monks, the sign of the beautiful, frequently giving careless attention to it. It's the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sensual desire and for the increase and expansion of arisen sensual desire. So in short, what it means, atti bhikkhave subanimittāṃ. So now the sign of the beautiful, so now which means ayoniso manasikāra. Now the word itself says Ati bhikkave subha nimittang tatta ayoniso manasikara bahulikaro ayamāhāro. So when someone's attention is unwise, so when your attention is unwise, then what happens? You are stuck in a beautiful object, right? And then what happens? You take it as beautiful and your wisdom part does not arise. So that you are unwise and then you take the sign as being beautiful, and then what happens? Kama chanda arises. So it's a tricky situation. I mean, it would be nice if somebody understands an object at some point to be beautiful, but not trying to attach to that particular object. So you are just being wise. Okay, conventionally this is beautiful, but ultimately this is not beautiful. So you are not taking it as a sign to feed process within you. So basically here, what happens to many for kama chanda to arise in those people is that when they see a conventionally beautiful object, they take it with unwise attention, which you call ayoniso manasikara, without yoniso manasikara. And then what happens? Kama chanda slowly arises. So that's what happens, right? So this is what arises, this is which helps kama chanda to arise, as well as the arisen kama chanda to develop. So taking this sign of being beautiful with unwise attention. Probably somebody can take the sign of beautiful with wise attention. So that would be nice. There would be no kama chanda. But the problem is those who take that particular object, with being beautiful with unwise attention. That's the first part. The second, kocha bhikkave āhāro. Now we are going to talk about the nutriment about vyapada. Okay, the second hindrance. Kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannasava vyapadassa uppadāya uppannasava vyapadassa bhiyobhavāya vipulāya. Ati bhikkave patiga nimittang tatta ayoniso manasikara bahulikaro ayamāhāro anuppannasava vyapadassa uppadāya uppannasava vyapadassa bhiyobhavāya vipulāya. The same thing. So and what monks is a nutriment for the arising of unarisen ill will, vyapada, and for the increase and expansion of arisen ill will, there is monks, the sign of repulsive. The sign of repulsive, we call it patika chitta, frequently giving careless attention to it. To it is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen ill will, and for the increase increase and expansion of arisen ill will. Okay, so it's pretty clear that what happens with regard to the vyapada is when someone is taking the sign of patika, the repulsive, with unwise attentions, right? We know that when you see repulsion or repulsiveness as a sign with wise attention, I think you can minimize the aftermath or the detrimental nature of the patika sign or repulsive sign. But if people taking it as a sign of patika with unwise attention, it would be a problem. And I would encourage, if you don't take it as a patika itself, that would be the most practical and most beneficial thing. But at some point, even as conventional beings, we might face with this karma and patika stuff, but you have this if you can put wise attention before you want to process all these, then you will have a support in tackling that thing. So the nutriment for vyapada is patika, repulsive sign. This is the sign of the repulsive. And then kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannassa va tīna middassa uppadāya uppannassa tīna middassa biyo bhavāya vepullāya atti bhikkave arati tandi vijambika batta sammado chetaso līnatta. The rest is same. So what is the nutriment for tīna and midda, sloth and torpor? It is what we call arati, tandi, vijambika, batta sammado, chetaso līnatta. What does it mean? Arati means discontent, lethargy. Tandi means lethargy. Vijambika means lazy stretching. Batta sammado means drowsiness after meals. Chetaso līnatta means sluggishness of mind. So what happens when you have the nutriments for sloth and torpor? What are the nutriments for sloth and torpor? We call them arati, discontent. Discontent, you are not happy. And lethargy is, tandi means lethargy. And lazy stretching, vijambika, so you're pretty lazy to stretch out. And batta sammado is eating too much food, drowsiness after meals. And sluggish, chetaso līnatta means sluggishness of mind. So they are the nutriments for sloth and torpor. So if you have these nutriments, definitely you will be having sloth and torpor much wider, in full swing. And then atti bhikkave āhāro anuppannassa uddacca kukkuccassa uppadāya uppannassa uddacca kukkuccassa biyo bhavāya vipullāya atti bhikkave chetaso aupa-samo. The rest is the same. Now, what are the nutriments for, or what is the nutriment for uddacca kukkucca? And what bhikkhus is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen restlessness and remorse, and for the increase of and expansion of arisen restlessness and remorse? There is, monks, unsettledness of mind. Atti bhikkave chetaso aupa-samo. So if your mind is unsettled, that's the place where you are far more susceptible to uddacca kukkucca. Dhamma friends, can you remember Abhidhamma? I will be talking this thing this Wednesday, in 2 more days. In Abhidhamma, it says that uddacca and kukkucca, they are separated. So uddacca is what we know by a common akusala cetasika that is relevant to all the akusala cetasikas. But kukkucca is just one of the cetasikas which comes under dosa. So that's something really interesting to understand, which means uddacca and kukkucca, which means restlessness of the mind, is always present in all the akusala cetasikas. So when you are executing, when you want to do a bad karma, akusala thing, you definitely have restlessness because your mind is restless. But kukkucca is not present at all times. Kukkucca arises when you worry about something you did, something you did as a bad thing, or about a good thing sometimes. I mean, you might be worried about a good thing. You could have done this way, you could have done that way. So you are worrying about thinking, imagining different ways of, fulfilling, executing the good thing. So any kind of worry about the past, present, and the future is going to be kukkucca. But definitely here, with regard to panchanivarana, uddacca kukkucca is taken together, and the nutriment for uddacca kukkucca is unsettledness of your mind. So when your mind is unsettled, then that is the food for uddacca kukkucca to arise. And if it is arisen, then it will, get developed because your mind is unsettled. And then the final part of the panchanivarana. Kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannāya vā vichikicchāya uppadāya uppannāyava vichikicchāya bhiyo bhavāya vipullāya ati bhikkave vichikicchā dhāniya dhamma tatta ayoniso manasikara bahulīkāro ayam āhāro anuppannāyava vichikicchāya uppannāyava vichikicchāya bhiyo bhavāya vipullāya. So now what is the nutriment for vichikiccha? Vichikiccha simply means doubt, but this is more likely a spiritual doubt, which we know, the doubts of 8 places, right? Doubts about the Buddha, doubts about his doctrine, Dhamma, doubts about his monks and nuns, monastics, doubts about previous life, future life, the birth, causality. So there are different kind of doubts with regard to vichikiccha. But if you can remember, in Abhidhamma, now we will be talking this too, it talks about 2 main cetasikas. So one is doubt, vichikiccha under akusalas, and we also talk about adhimokha, which is also a cetasika, mental factor, which comes under I guess anya samanas, which means adhimokha is decisiveness. So you are able to decide what your mind should go from now. But vichikiccha is what we call by doubt. So that means adhimucchati, or which means adhimokha, is the opposite of doubt. So if you want to get out of the doubt, which means you are moving towards adhimokha, which is a cetasika, which you know under the anya samana, but vichikiccha in that Abhidhamma cetasika analysis of cetasika is akusala, is an akusala thing, cetasika. So now you understand what is the nutriment. Let's take a look at this English translation about the nutriment for vichikiccha. There are bhikkhus things that are the basis of doubt. So there are basis, the basis of doubt. So what fundamentally causes doubt, all that include as the nutriment for vichikiccha. Having said that, then the sutta further continues. It will get into Sattabojjhangas now. So to talk about the nutriment of Sattabojjhanga. Sayyatapi bhikkave ayam kāyo āhārattitiko āhārang paticca tittati anāhāro no tittati evameva ko bhikkave Sattabojjhanga āhārattitika āhārang paticca tittanti anāhāra no tittanti. Just as this body, the same thing that we knew when we read about Panchanivarana, how it is subsisted on the other things like food, nutriment. Just as this body, monks, sustained by nutriment, subsists in dependence on nutriment and does not subsist without nutriment, so too the 5 hindrances sustained by nutriment, so etc. etc. Because just as this body sustained by nutriment subsists in dependence on nutriment and does not subsist without nutriment, so too the 7 factors of awakening sustained by nutriment subsist in dependence on nutriment and do not subsist without nutriment. The same thing. But you need to understand something here which is pretty interesting. Subsist in dependence. We know in the Buddhist teachings every Dhamma factor is dependent on another Dhamma factor, which we call pacchayas. So all the Dhamma factors are mutually dependent. They are not independent factors. If you say it's independent, it's going to be an eternal thing which is not under, which would not fall into anicca dukkha anatta perspective. So all the Dhamma factors, starting from Paṭisamuppada, Arya Attayika Magga, Chatu Arya Satya, they all are Panchakhanda, they all are mutually dependent on other factors. Okay? So even among 7 factors of awakening, the Panchanivarana, they all are mutually dependent. But here let's take a look at what are the nutriments for each awakening factor. In Pali, Kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannasava sati sambojjangassa uppadāya uppannasava sati sambojjangassa bhavanāya pāripurya ati bhikkave sati bojjangatthāniya dhamma tatta yoniso manasikara bahulīkāro ayamāhāro anuppannasava sati sambojjangassa uppadāya uppannasava sati sambojjangassa bhavanāya pāripurya. So it's pretty easy to understand. And what monks is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen awakening factor of mindfulness, sati, the first awakening factor, which is called sati, and for the fulfillment by development of the arisen awakening factor of sati. So, let's say in some people, this the first awakening factor may not have already arisen. So in those people, this might arise if they are really focusing on this practice. Suppose there are people who already have this sati awakening factor, then what happens with this practice? By understanding the nutriment for this factor, it will increase, develop. So what is the nutriment for awakening factor, which we call sati? There are amongst things that are the basis for the awakening factor of mindfulness. Okay, so there are basics, right? So the basis, I would say the basic fundamental things about sati practice. So they are what we call by nutriment here. Now there are different multiple things about the practice of sati by which one may practice sati, right? We know sati has to sati is just the bare attention, and we know we need atapi, we need sampajanya. So there are fundamental basic things that one has to practice to awaken it and to experience it and to develop it. So all that is nutriment here. Second is the Dhamma Vichaya awakening factor. Kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannasava Dhamma Vichaya sambojjangassa uppadāya uppannasava Dhamma Vichaya sambojjangassa bhavana pāripurya. Here we have a couple different interesting terms as to the nutriment. Atti bhikkave kusala dhamma savajjana vacca dhamma hina panita dhamma kanha sukkassa patibhaga kanha sukkasa patibhaga dhamma tatta yoniso manasikara bahulīkāro. Okay. And what monks is a nutriment for the arising of the unarisen awakening factor of discrimination of states, I would say investigating Dhamma rather than using discrimination, for the fulfillment by development of the arisen awakening factor of Dhamma Vichaya. There are big monks, wholesome and unwholesome states. Atibhikkhave kusala dhamma savajjana vajja dhamma, blamable and blameless states. Hina panita dhamma, inferior and superior states. Kanha sukkasa patibhaga dhamma, dark and bright states with their counterparts. So this is what we need to understand about Dhamma Vichaya. When you say Dhamma, so Dhamma, which means what do you call Dhamma, has couple meanings. So in here I would say Dhamma is the real nature of anything. So the real nature of wholesome and unwholesome states, blamable and blameless, so kusala akusala. So this is what we have to understand. Inferior, superior, probably kamma, which we talk under Chula Kamvanga Sutta. Dark and bright states, these are kusala and akusala, or punya and papa. So all that come under Dhamma Vichaya. So if someone has nutriments you know, what we just mentioned, wholesome and unwholesome states, blamable and unblameless states, inferior and superior states, dark and bright states with their counterparts. So those will be nutriments for Dhammavichaya Bojjhanga. For someone to arise Dhammavichaya Bojjhanga in that person, or to develop the existing Dhammavichaya Sambojjhanga. Now the third is the Sati Dhammavichaya Virya. Kocha bhikkave āhāro anuppannasava virya sambojjhangassa uppadāya uppannasava virya sambojjhangassa bhavanāya paripurya ati bhikkave ārambha dhātu, nikkama dhātu, parakkama dhātu. So these are the interesting 2-3 terms about virya. So what are the nutriments for virya sambojjhanga, which you call by awakening factor of energy? There are three things to be nutrimental. The element of arousal, which you call by ārambha dhātu, which means the starting point of any effort. So when you start any activity, especially wholesome, we call it as a ārambha dhātu, the element of arousal. So you are causing your energy to arise. So I would say you are causing your effort to arise in you. So that is called ārambha dhātu. Nikkama dhātu is the element of endeavor, which is a step difficult, more than the first thing, which we say by starting. So it's true, right? We know that we can start things. We can start things if we are really serious, but the biggest problem for many is that how to consistently, how to continue consistently. They start it, but they get stuck. They're gonna end up. They're gonna give it up, right? But the most difficult thing in any endeavor, any effort, is to continue consistently. Okay, so the element of arousal, which we meant by ārambha dhātu, and nikkama dhātu, which means the element of endeavor. And the third one is parakkama dhātu, the element of exertion. So the element of exertion means that you are going pretty focused, straightforwardly. At the same time, you're gonna end up with the goal. You are not, end up before the goal. So they are the nutriments for what you call virya sambojjhanga. Right? Ārambha dhātu, the element of arousal. Nikkama dhātu, the element of endeavor. Parakkama dhātu, the element of exertion. What are the nutriments for the next awakening factor, which we call by piti, the nutriment for the awakening factor of rapture? We call it rapture, not just joy. I wouldn't read the whole thing because I would just take the nutrimental part. Atti bhikkave piti sambojjhanga thāniya dhamma. So it does not specifically specify a particular nutriment, but all that is fundamental for the awakening factor of rapture is included in here as nutriment. And then we are moving on to the fifth awakening factor to see the included nutriment. What are the nutriments for this particular awakening factor to arise and to develop if you already have? We call it passaddhi. Passaddhi means tranquility. We all like to be tranquil, right? So tranquility. So what is a nutriment for tranquility? Let's take a look at that. Atti bhikkave kāya passaddhi chittapasadikaya tatta yoniso manasikara bahulikaro. Now I miss one thing. Yoniso manasikara. So in all the 7 factors of 7 awakening factors, there is no unwise attention, but there is wise attention. So in the previous Panchanivarana, people are facing nutriments, and they are going through dealing 5 hindrances, the nutriments, with unwise attention, but not which is not common to generic to 7 awakening factors. Okay, so the nutriment for Passaddhi Sambojjhanga, which means the awakening factor of tranquility, is Kaya Passaddhi and Chitta Passaddhi. So what is Kaya Passaddhi? What is Chitta Passaddhi? Kaya Passaddhi means tranquility of body, and Chitta Passaddhi is tranquility of mind. But Abhidhamma has a different interpretation. In Abhidhamma it says Kaya. Kaya doesn't mean the body. They say Kaya means Chetasikas, and Chitta is consciousness. So, but in here the translation goes like tranquility of the body, tranquility of the mind. So both have to be tranquil, because if your body, even though your body is tranquil, but if your mind is not tranquil, it's a problem. Sometimes your mind is tranquil, but this is very rare. Your body has to be tranquil too. That's what we call indriya samvara, restraining senses, sense restraint. So the nutriment for Passaddhi Bojjhanga, or which we call by awakening factor of tranquility, is tranquility of body, tranquility of mind. So when you have tranquility in your bodily actions and mind-based actions, then you are practicing, you are developing your existing already arisen awakening factor of tranquility. If you haven't practiced this before, and it will arise if you have tranquility in body and mind. The sixth awakening factor is Samadhi. So what are the nutriments of Samadhi awakening factor? Atti bhikkave samata nimittan, abhyagga nimittan, tatta yoniso manasikara bahulikaro. There are a couple new names for you. They are the bhikkhus, the sign of serenity. So we need serenity. Now, if anyone want to start mindfulness meditation, we always advise, we all have to start with samatha, basically samatha. So samatha meditation, which means to calm yourself from 5 hindrances. Now, as I told you at the beginning, 5 hindrances are kind of a checklist. So if you check yourself with this checklist of kamachanda, sensual desire, vyapada, ill will, tinamita, sloth and torpor, uddhacca kukucca, restlessness and worry or remorse, and vicikicca, doubt, at any time. I mean, let's take these five hindrances as a checklist. If you cross check yourself with these 5, if you don't think that you are free from them, you are in trouble. But don't think it's a failing, because everybody is struggling with these 5. We should not keep a barrier between us and the calmness. Now, oftentimes what happens is that when it comes to our life, we have a barrier. So let's say there is calmness and there is me. If I'm struggling with 5 hindrances, so it's a barrier to achieve concentration, I would say calmness. So we have to get rid of the barriers. So these are the 5 barriers. So we have to get rid of these 5 to be calm. So basically, the nutriment for awakening factor of concentration, she calls Samadhi Sambojjhanga, is a sign of serenity. So if you have the sign of serenity, if you are serene, the sign of non-dispersal, she calls in Pali, abhyagga nimitta, they themselves become your nutriments for practicing your existing concentration. If you don't have this concentration awakening factor, it will arise. The last awakening factor is going to be upekkha. We call it equanimity. What are the nutriments for upekkha? Atti bhikkave upekkha sambojjhanga taniya dhamma. Okay? So all the fundamental basic things that are causing this equanimity. So equanimity is such a very interesting, which is the most quality, virtue in the Buddhist practice. So if you don't have equanimity, you are in trouble, because what is equanimity? Equanimity means if you are not attached to your compliments, if you are not worried too much about your constructive criticism that might be directed at you by co-workers or your people, you are in a middle place. But what happens to many is that when they are complimented, they are shrugging off, and they are overwhelmed. And if the same people are going to criticize them, they feel so much down. But Buddha says, when people compliment you, just say thank you, and you are not overwhelmed. When people are criticizing you, take a look at what you have done. If something was done by you by mistake, and apologize, and not to repeat it, and you are not so down. So you are in the middle. That's what called upekka. So which is pretty difficult for many people, right? So it is the most awakening factor when it comes to liberation in the Buddhist teaching. So the nutriment for upekka is the fundamental things that cause all of us to practice upekka. Not being so much attached, not being so much driven by hatred, right? Or what you call repulsiveness. So Dhamma friends, this is what we've been talking today. So basically we talk about the connection between Pancha Nivarana, 5 hindrances, and Sattva-bodhanga. That's one thing. The second thing is we talk about nutriments for both Pancha Nivarana and Sattva-bodhanga. So when you understand the nutriments for Pancha Nivarana, 5 hindrances, you will not deal Pancha Nivarana with unwise attention. That's the main thing. If you know the nutriments for Sattva-bodhangas, 7 awakening factors, you will already deal them with wise attention, and you will practice. You will create a life with those nutriments, because those nutriments are really beneficial for all of us. So before I close, I want to share with you a few more things about Pancha Nivarana, because it's pretty interesting to understand at this point. So Buddha says Kama Chanda. So Kama Chanda, which means sensual desire, it is compared to a suffering repaid. Now we know when you take a loan, you have to repay, right? But what happens to many is that when they get the loan, it incurs some interest. So it's going to be a suffering repaid when you are indulging in unnecessary sensual desires. I know that people need karma, but if you practice, if you enjoy karma with wise attention, with wise attention, you will minimize the issues, because otherwise you can't live, right? So that is what I want to say. So Kama Chanda, sensual desire, is compared to suffering repaid. Vyapada, or ill will, is compared to being sick. So when you are sick, you lose one of the most important freedoms in your life. What is it? Health. So you are not freed from health. So Buddha says, when you have thoughts of killing other people, destroying other people, you are compared to a person who is being sick. Because when you are sick, you don't have one of the most important freedoms, which you call health, right? Don't encourage any thoughts of killing, putting people down, destroying, even on social media, which is pretty bad. Tina and Midda, sloth and torpor, the duet, the both hindrances, I would say one hindrance, but which has two parts, aspects. Tina means sloth and Midda is torpor. it is compared to being imprisoned in a dark cell, unable to move freely. So when you are prone to tina and midda, when you are too much sluggish, then what happens? You are a person. You are a person who is. You are compared to a person who is being imprisoned in a dark cell. You can't even see anything. How can you then move around, right? So we shouldn't be imprisoned in a dark cell. We should be able to walk outside happily, independently, jovially. Uddacha kukkucha, which means restlessness of your mind, and kukkucha is a worry or remorse, is compared to being a slave, which means you are a slave to yourself. Let's think that this unmanaging, I would say, this how do you call this bossy nature that you have within you is controlling you. So you are a slave to yourself. That's why Buddha says, when you have uddacha kukkucha, restlessness and remorse or worry, when you are suffering, when you are having those aspects, you are compared to a slave. You are a slave to yourself, because you have that bossy nature, and that bossy nature takes you over. It's pretty dangerous. It's like a tyrannical boss. Vicikiccha is doubt. When you have doubt, you are compared to someone who is lost in a desert, not recognizing any landmarks. So if you are lost in a desert, you never know where to go, in which direction. So you are pretty lost in the desert, right? You are not understanding any landmark. So I would encourage you to think this as being a checklist. So every time, please keep these 5 as a checklist, and do not think that this is a failing in your life, because this is not a personal failing. We all deal with these 5. The most important thing is learn them, experience them. I wouldn't say experience by letting them grow. Learn them, analyze them, understand them. So you will be dealing these 5 hindrances really, pragmatically, helpfully. So the most important thing when you are dealing with these 5 is patience. So you need to be patient, because patient, it will take you to execute cross-checking yourself with these 5 I would say helpfully and pragmatically. So one of the ways that we can do this is to deal with 5 hindrances, each factor is, first, use your mindfulness to see whether you are with one of them. Look at it. Second. Third is analyze it. Fourth, make it the object of your meditation. So now let's say, when you are mindful, you understand whether one of these or all of them are present in you, and you look at them, look at it or look at them, and you analyze how they appear in me, and you can use them as the objects for your own mindfulness that you are doing now. Experience them fully, and then practice RAIN methodology. After that, I've been talking this RAIN methodology multiple times. RAIN methodology means recognize your nivaranas or astral, I would say nivaranas, hindrances, and A means accept whether you have them. I means investigate them physically, mentally, emotionally. N means non-identify, deconstruct your connection with the particular hindrance, so you are free to go. You can keep a bumper sticker, the bumper stickers you put on the cars. So your bumper sticker should be, I stop for the hindrances. I stop for the hindrances. So you are not letting your hindrances take you over. So I stop for hindrances, and I want to get rid of the barriers between calmness and me. So I should be able to go directly into calmness without any barriers. So I'm really good. But the problem is that between I and the calmness is a barrier. So that barrier, that barrier means 5 hindrances. We have to get rid of those 5, and then we're gonna get into Samadhi, concentration, pretty easily. Okay, Dhamma friends, that's all for today, and I hope you learned a lot today. Any questions for today's talk? Let me see. I don't see any questions for today. So thank you, and let's share all the good karmas with the departed relatives and the deities. May all the good karmas that we've been accumulating in all these ways be shared by all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. Let's share all the good karmas with the deities, devas and nagas who protect and bless all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu, sabbe bhuta anumodantu, sabbe satta anumodantu, sabbe sampatti sindhya. Akasattha Chibummata Deva Naga Mahindika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkang Tuluka Sasanang Chirang Rakkang Tudesanang Chirang Rakkang Tumang Paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadan Silisse Nichang Vadha Pachayino Chattaro Dhamma Vadhanti Ayuvanu Sukhang Balang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sangha Sampatti Mevache Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Saminjatu. Dhamma friends, and I will be conducting Dhamma Paṭisota series this Wednesday. Another topic from Abhidhamma in Wednesdays, in coming up Wednesdays Dhamma Paṭisota series. I'm going to be talking Akusala Cetasikas. There are Akusala Cetasikas, 14 Akusala Cetasikas. We'll be talking what they are and how they relate to all of us. Stay tuned. Have a good night. Take care.